So, a while ago, I made a video lamenting the sorry state of Walt Disney Animated Studios at present, and honestly Pixar as well, and how in the last couple of years they seem to be on a massive downturn. And I wasn't really all that optimistic about this upcoming year, 2024, besides the release of Inside Out 2, but my, how the tables have turned. Because we've gotten some announcements that, in my opinion, are going to very much lead to a potential resurge for both of these studios and put Disney back on top as the premier company for animated films. Okay, so I guess we start off. We've got Inside Out 2 coming this year. It's coming out in June, and that's the first of our big releases, and there's a whole heap of hype surrounding this movie. The first installment did very well, and so I think that this has a very good chance to be Pixar's first smash hit in a long time. What, since like Toy Story 4, 2019? 5 years? Jeez. And in terms of quality, I don't know. I know they haven't made a whole heap of money, but for the most part, I very much enjoyed Pixar's movies during the 2020s. I think Lightyear is probably the only one I didn't like at all. I actually might have nodded off in the cinema for that one. And so, I'm actually rather excited for Inside Out 2. They just released a teaser scene of all the emotions taking turns on the console while Riley plays a game of hockey, and it just looks like so much fun. They've really kept to the spirit of the series. And Pixar generally does do really great sequels, so I doubt this is going to be the exception to the rule, and I think it's going to do very well critically and at the box office. I think really it's just their original works at the moment. They've not been able to draw as much of a crowd to the cinema as they used to. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but first up, next on the agenda, we have the announcement for Moana 2. A Moana sequel! I honestly did not expect this one. I thought it was coming at some point in the future, but I did not expect it to be the next one up. I figured we were going to see Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, one of those before this. But hey, I'm not complaining. Moana 2, that's what I'm talking about. And that's going to be released on the 27th of November this year, so that's pretty exciting as well. And I took a look at the trailer, didn't really see anything of note, just her blowing a shell. It's really more of an announcement teaser than a trailer or anything like that, but doesn't mean we can't do a little bit of baseless speculation about what it's going to be about, can we? So the first film, it was about Moana finding herself, really, going on an adventure to prove herself to her people, restore the safety of the seas and restore their cultural identity, bring back their people to their seafaring ways, as opposed to remaining isolated on their little island forever. The first film ends with Moana leaving with the first group of her new wayfinders to, well, I guess they're off to colonize a new island somewhere or just explore the oceans. Anyway, we do have a blurb about what to expect from the film. It's pretty vague, but it does give us something. It reads, after receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana journeys to the far seas of Oceania into dangerous long-lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced. So it's a very vague sort of statement there, but clearly she's going to go off on an adventure, likely with Maui tagging along. And this is going to be after getting some dreams or visits from the spirits of her ancestors, just like her grandma did in the first movie. And then I'd guess there are a few major potential storylines based off of that. Either there's going to be a long-lost colony that she discovers there, who she has to help and win over, or there's going to be a bunch of cursed souls that she has to save, because I guess that part of this movie is going to be her struggle to be accepted as a leader, or simply to learn to be a leader of her people. And so when she proves herself on this new quest, she can return back to her home with more confidence than ever before. That feels like a Disney storyline, doesn't it? I mean, maybe it's a little bit vague, but I can definitely see Disney hitting at least some of those story beats. And you look at the released image they had, and I think I might be on the money with this one. Look, there's Moana, there's some random villages, there's Maui, oh look, a big spirit whale. And yeah, OG Moana, it did well, grossed over $600 million, and that's very good. I mean, it ain't Frozen levels of money, but it did well for itself, and so I can see this sequel doing even better, maybe even pushing closer to the big billion. These sequels always seem to do big business, especially if they're based off a really beloved movie, which Moana was. And I'm also expecting it to be very well received, so expect big things, although it is a massive shame that Lin-Manuel Miranda is not coming back to do the songs this time apparently. He was really good in the first movie, made some bangers, guess not though. And so then I figured, well, at least this year's shaping up to be a bit better for both of the studios all round. But I did think it was going to fall by the wayside once again in 2025. But that wasn't all the animation news we had. We still have more dates announced for some films. Next year, we have the release of Elio on the 13th of June. And I'll be honest, I am not certain on how this is going to go. From what we've seen from the trailers, the movie looks fun and exciting. I admit that. But at the same time, you can't deny that Pixar has lost a lot of its box office shine. They used to be an attraction. But I think during the reign of COVID, they started going to Disney Plus so early, it kind of hampered the drawing power of the studio. People are thinking, Why should I pay for expensive movie tickets when I can just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus and spend my money elsewhere on something different? And so I think it's trained people into thinking that Pixar's now the equivalent of a made-for-video or made-for-streaming studio. And I think it's going to be hard to put that genie back in the bottle. Sequels are always going to draw well, I think, especially for something like Inside Out, but I do think something like Elio, an unproven franchise from a studio that's currently not too hot, I think there's definitely the potential for it to struggle quite a lot, because that's the new reality we've got. People are trained to wait for it to come out on a streaming service that they already pay for. They don't want to pay for the expensive tickets, because going to see movies, it's a damn expensive process a lot of the time now. So I think we're going to see more people go to see their tried and tested franchises. Hence why we're starting to see that pivot, I think, in both studios' release catalogs, because, well, this is like one of the few originals that's seemingly being released anytime soon. Because in November 2025, we're back to sequels, we're back to franchises. Zootopia 2. I gotta say, this one has me so hyped, it's unreal. But for some reason, I'm always seeing a lot of hate for Zootopia. Like, it only seems to be very specific online places, like Reddit. I've seen hate that there was talk about incorporating it into the parks. I've seen questioning as to why they'd even make a sequel. And I'm just sitting here thinking, maybe it was the Oscar win, or the $1 billion gross, and what was likely a massive amount of merchandise sold. Maybe that's the root of the answer here. And so yeah, this is going to be a massive hit as well. No doubt about it. Even if the movie's no good, it'll be a smash hit. Cutesy animated animals. It's going to be printing money. Although I do feel like they got to change up the story a little bit to not be so cop-centric, or at least have some nuance in that story. Because the world that this film came out in, 2016, it's far different to the current one in regards to opinion on police and law enforcement. And I think it's doubly important because the first film deals heavily with the topics of discrimination. So yeah, you don't want to fumble this potential smash hit. Then after that, we're just into the era of sequels. We have the 5th Toy Story film. And, all the others have been smash hits. 3 and 4 both crossed $1 billion. There's no reason not to assume this will do the same. Even if I think the story's run dry and it didn't need to be brought back again, people are going to go and see it. And that's just Pixar. Big year for Pixar whenever that comes out. And realistically, 2026, I think there's 2 films slated for release that year from Pixar. So probably this and something original. But yeah, Disney, they ain't bothering with original. They want money. They want redemption. They want Moana 2, Zootopia 2, then there's a film slated for the end of 2026, which I would say is almost certainly Frozen 3. So yeah, whilst I'm not completely sold on the idea that all these sequels are going to be genuinely quality films, they are all going to do good business. I would be shocked if they don't. And so suddenly, the rut these companies are in, it really does look like it's ending this year. And I'm very happy about that because I miss those classic glory days of the 2010s when both companies were on top of the box office and they were winning awards and just being awesome. So let's hope for the best, shall we? So with all that being said, these have just been my opinions and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the lineup announcement? Are you hyped? Do you think we're about to come into a fresh golden era? Maybe not. Maybe you think they're all going to suck and bomb and the studio's going to collapse. I don't know. Maybe you think that. But I am curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.